so Polyev was really kind of stumped by that. He could no longer campaign on Axe the Tax. He couldn't campaign on being the anti-Trudeau. And he was really painted, I think often rightly, as being quite similar to Trump because his mantra was also Canada first, which obviously rings quite similar to, make America great again. And so I think those two things combined, that sort of the tiredness with Trudeau being kind of thrown out the window, and also Polyev being seen as a little bit too close to Trump, meant that when Mark Carney, a man who is seen as quite experienced, he's led two central banks, he's kind of talked down Trump as well. When you are Canada and you're thinking, who do I want to stand up to Trump? Do I want the man who has been a central banker, who has experience leading companies? Or do I want the career politician who's making the same noises as Trump about ending woke ideology?
Canada's election results have been coming in overnight, and it looks like the Liberals, led by Mark Carney, will be the biggest party but may not win a majority. The Conservative leader, Pierre Poilievre, has conceded defeat in the last few moments.
Canadians have opted for a razor-thin minority government, a virtual tie in the vote count. So I would like to congratulate Prime Minister Carney on leading this minority government. Yes, we will do our job to hold the government to account, but first, we congratulate people from all political backgrounds on participating in the democratic process. Conservatives will work with the Prime Minister and all parties with the common goal of defending Canada's interests and getting a new trade deal that puts these tariffs behind us while protecting our sovereignty and the Canadian people.
That was the Conservative leader, Pierre Poilievre, and we don't know what he's going to do first. We'll try and find out. He was conceding defeat there in the last few moments. Well, Jay Cockburn is a journalist in Toronto, and he's staying up watching events. Good morning, or good evening there for you.
Good morning, good evening. I don't really know what time it is. How are you doing?
We're good. How are you? I mean, tell us what the results so far mean.
The results so far. So, yeah, it looks like a minority for the Liberals. We've got about 90% of the polls reporting. That doesn't mean we can say for sure that it's not a majority, but it's probably a minority. I mean, at this point, a majority would be, if the Liberals did get a majority, it'd be so thin it might as well be a minority. And the real story is that the collapse of the third parties, and traditionally a Liberal minority would be propped up by the NDP, who are sort of the New Democratic Party, sort of to the left of the Liberals, the kind of union power party. It's looking like they're only getting 7 seats, which, that doesn't even give them official party status, which makes them quite interesting for a Liberal minority. It means they may be propped up by the Bloc Québécois, who are the Quebec separatist party. So that's where we are right now at 1:10 a.m. in Canada. It is quite the turnaround, though, because in January, 3 months ago, we had a 24-point lead for the Conservatives here in Canada. Pierre Poilievre thought he was storming to victory as the new king of Canada with a massive majority with the Conservatives. And that's just not happened. Trump has changed everything.
I mean, it's almost unbelievable the amount that Trump has managed to do in these Canadian elections in a relatively short space of time. Is it almost solely down to the Trump effect, or is part of this the fact that Justin Trudeau stepped down and people were pretty fed up with him?
I think it's probably a little bit of both, but had it just been Justin Trudeau stepping down, it's hard to imagine Mark Carney returning to power. I think what's happened here is Trudeau, he was really the incumbent for all these terms, and he really had the kind of Canadian descent with, COVID and the housing crisis, and all of that was lumped on Trudeau. And when Trudeau resigned, that kind of got put out the window, and Poilievre had really campaigned on being the anti-Trudeau candidate. His main mantra was axe the tax, which there was a quite unpopular tax called the carbon tax. Actually, most people ended up getting more money out of the carbon tax as a rebate, but it essentially meant you paid more for petrol. And as soon as Carney got into power, he axed the tax. And so Poilievre was really kind of stumped by that. He could no longer campaign on axe the tax. He couldn't campaign on being the anti-Trudeau. And he was really painted, I think often rightly, as being quite similar to Trump, because his mantra was also Canada first, which obviously rings quite similar to, make America great again. And so I think those two things combined, that sort of the tiredness with Trudeau being kind of thrown out the window, and also Poilievre being seen as a little bit too close to Trump, meant that when Mark Carney, a man who is seen as quite experienced, he's led 2 central banks, he's kind of talked down Trump as well. When you are Canada and you're thinking, who do I want to stand up to Trump? Do I want the man who has been a central banker, who has experience leading companies? Or do I want the career politician who's making the same noises as Trump about ending woke ideology? That's the choice that ended up being made. And I think while it has ended up, it seems quite thin, I think in the end, Canadians went for the man that they thought was the strongest, most experienced politician to stand up to Trump. I think it is quite fair to say that Trump did decide this election.
We are hoping to hear from Mark Carney, and we'll bring you a bit of that live if and when he stands up to speak. But just, Jay, what can we expect now from him? Because even if he is running a minority government, he must have an agenda for for his first 100 days, certainly. What can we expect to see from a Carney-led government now?
Well, he has said, spend less, invest more, which sounds great to all kinds of people, doesn't it? Spend less, invest more. You can kind of take that how you want. It's a bit of a Rorschach test. He's also said Canada strong. And I think the thing that for me has really stood out is when he was, he's said about being on the phone to Trump, that when Trump was referring to Trudeau as Governor Trudeau, and now he's referring to Carney as Prime Minister Carney. So I think it's all about that standing up to Trump. He's also going to do quite a lot of things. As far as I can tell, this is all, people say things to get in power and then they do things. He has said he will have the federal government start building housing again. And similar to the UK, similar to many English-speaking nations, actually, we have quite a serious housing crisis here in Canada. And so he has said the federal government will act as a developer that will build more housing. He's also said that the federal government will invest more in the CBC, which is the Canadian version of the BBC, probably quite obvious that. And when you're a country that's trying to kind of put itself forward as, someone that can stand up to America and lead forward with this soft power, the idea of investing in your public broadcaster and showing yourself around the world to be someone who has that kind of BBC-esque type broadcaster might be quite attractive to a Liberal leader. So those are the two things he's really said out loud. It's yet to be seen. I think the housing platform is quite attractive to a lot of people who are struggling to make rent right now, especially in the urban centres. That was kind of shown in the electoral results that have been shown so far. But as with any election, it's yet to be seen. We have, I think the interesting thing here is that he'll be propped up by the Bloc Québécois, and they will probably want some concessions on, power for Quebec.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, something that we will keep a close eye on here. Jay, thank you very much for your time this morning.